Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you a really practical endgame where you have to know how to win this. It's just a nice puzzle and hopefully you can gather a good theme out of it. So it's white to move in this position and the pawns are going up the board like that. And black pawns, of course, are coming down the board. We have a rook here who wants to get behind our pawn and try to capture it either that way or that way. Maybe this king can run it down. We'll see. And of course we have a bishop here. Take a second to see if you can figure out the solution. It's a little tricky, but that's what I like about it. These games can be very tricky with the bishop versus a rook. But if you have the material, maybe you can win, maybe you can draw. Let's see. And while you're here, be sure to subscribe. Last month, in the month of May, we gave $217 to charity, so that makes me so happy. So your support is greatly appreciated. Okay, so it's white to move here. What do we do? Well, we want to get this pawn away from this king. Because if you do something like this to hold this pawn, that's not fast enough. Instead, king f6, and I'm kind of blockading here. You're not going to be able to dislodge all of my stuff because I can always plant myself on g8. So pawn to h5 is a little too slow. That's my point. Okay, what about pawn g7? Well, it turns out that's the move. No other move really does anything. This check, although it may look appealing, that's only pushing the king toward where I want them to go, or where they want to go, where I do not want them to go. Right? And after this, there's checks, you can take this, you can, I don't know, it's not a good idea. This is losing if you're white. Okay. So the only move that really makes any sense is g7, and you can see the reason why g7 is a nice move. It lays a couple of traps, and I think that's a key in chess, right? We're using a little bit of bait here. So what's the point of this move? Well, obviously I'm threatening to push to become a queen, but what are the traps that I'm talking about? So this bishop is very sneaky because it has sight of c7 and c3. Now why is that important? Well, let's say this rook wants to defend by simply going to g3, right? They say, okay, I see they're going to promote. I'm going to play rook g3, and catch their pawn. If they do that, they lose immediately because, boom, that's a skewer. This king has to move out of the way, and I will take the rook on the next move. Okay, so it's kind of interesting how you can use this tactic in both directions. So if they go here, this move kills you. How about if they go here, thinking I'll stop the pawn from the other direction? Well, it's the same exact thing, right? I love this. Boom. Bishop takes c7. That is now a fork instead of a skewer. I'm a double attacking two things. Okay, so then again, it'll be a pretty easy win there. Let me make sure I show that. So if the king goes here, maybe you're thinking this is not a win. This is fine. This is a dark square. This is a dark square. You run the king in, and you're fine. Okay, so in this position, they can't go rook g3 or rook b8 because of this very sneaky little tactic. And you might go, okay, I get that, but, and this is an important piece, what if they give you check first, and then they get behind this way, and they just wait for you to promote, like this, rook b1. The king has to go somewhere, right? Well, you don't want to approach because there's no point. You're trying to get here. Instead, you're going to try to go this way because, this is a key point here, you want to start controlling the squares on this g file. So you want to run toward the g file. Okay, and now they go rook g1, saying, I'm going to take your pawn. On the next move, if you move this bishop in some way, or if you ever promote, I'll take it on g8. Right now, they're not threatening to take it, right? Make sure that's clear. They're not threatening at this moment because of this tactic. But they have an eye on it, and they could move back, maybe go on g8 and start taking things a different way. So what do you do here? Well, remember I made the point a moment ago that you should be going toward the g file. Because if you just look at the g file, which squares on the G file are under your control? Well, right now, these pawns are guarding G4, G5. This square is under my control indirectly because of this bishop and the tactic that exists behind that. Cool. Now, if I make this king move, now look at what's under control. Boom, 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 boom. And that one. Okay, so by making this king move, we're really putting the pressure on the rook. They only have one safe square, right? I just showed all the ones that are occupied. This is the only one that's safe. Okay, they go here. They don't want to take. Again, they don't want to take because they realize there's a tactic here. And that's a nice arrow right here. Okay, well now we're doing a little bit of chasing. We're chasing the rook around. We pushed it to the G file, and now we're kicking it away with our king. Okay, now what? Well, you have to hit it again, right? Sure, that makes sense. Now let's do this analysis again. What is the only free square? Well, again, can't go here, you can't go here, you can't go here. This one is covered. I'll use a different color for that. And you can go here, right? This is now covered, and this one again is implicitly defended by this skewer. Okay, so they have to go to G5. And now, this is the question that I want you to think about. Do I play H4 or do I play something else? Take a second. Think about it. If you want to pause, feel free to pause. You're more than welcome to pause. I want you to think about it because this is where I got tripped up. My immediate reaction was to play one move and then I realized it was not right. Okay. So my immediate reaction, perhaps it was yours, was to play H4, right? My thought was, I'm just kicking the rook around, right? Well, yeah, you are, but look at what you just gave up. This square, you just moved forward, you gave up this square, right? Pawns don't move backwards. When you make a pawn move, you weaken the square for the rest of the game. Well, now rook G4, you might think, oh, well, I can just attack it. Yeah, you can, but it doesn't really work because now the king can defend. And I'm holding this all together. No more fancy tricks here either. Look at these arrows. No more fancy tricks. So, you cannot play H4 in that position. Instead, the best move, maybe you got this, maybe you didn't, bishop B2, D2. I can't get my coordinates right. Bishop D2. Okay. Why is this different? Why is this the better move? Well, now, take a look at what you're controlling. G1, G2, G3, with just the king. G4 with this pawn. G5 with the bishop. Let's do that green. And then, of course, G6 with the pawn here. Okay, and G7, so is already controlled because of this tactic, right? So what we just did was we trapped the rook on the G file. So now the only thing they can do, the sensible thing I can say, is they can take, or if they want to run away, they can run away. Let's look. Let's take some of the arrows off the board. So they can either check me, take, or take. Well, if they take this, it's pretty clear this is lost, right? Because you can't protect the rook. You have to go to one of these squares, and then when you do, you lose your rook. So you might ask me, okay, Frank, that's great, but what about this move? What about this check? And I'd go, okay, fine. What do I do then? Well, look, this isn't actually hurting me. I just go king G2, maybe even king G3, maybe king G1, who knows? I am now threatening to promote this, and when a pawn is on the 7th rank like this, the rook can't go back to defend because you just take it. And if they want to save this, they have to go back, but then we just take that, and then I win. You see that point? So this endgame puzzle is really instructive because it shows you the power of the pawns and the bishops. Look at how you can even use your king to control so many squares. Right, with the pawns, these ones. Maybe use a different color, sorry about that. With the pawns, these ones. And then these little tactics that are in the endgame. I think people associate tactics with the middle game. The endgame is full of tactics. So you have to always be aware that you don't want to give up anything like a free rook, a free bishop, or a free knight, or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. In this position, white wins. They kick off with g7, no matter how you choose to defend it. Again, my arrows are phenomenal. No matter how you choose to defend it, maybe you check this way, right? Look, it still doesn't matter. Look at the geometry of this. You can take it. Boom, you're losing. I hope you're seeing the lovely X that this bishop makes. Again, look at these arrows. Look at these arrows. Like that. It's wonderful. And the same thing applies the other way around, because the bishop can go here, and then it creates this other X. Okay. I hope you enjoy that. It was, to me, super instructive. I thought there was so much value in this puzzle because these endgames, they happen all the time, and you play one wrong move, and it's over. But yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed these videos, please consider subscribing. Half of the income that I earn goes directly to charity, so every subscriber really helps me out a lot. Thanks so much. Bye.